see you dancing around. You just sit there again. That was me experimenting with a video thing on StreamYard. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching Jonathan dancing around in the in the background. Okay. I'll start, shall I? So today we are going to be talking about systems thinking. Now, this isn't going to be specifically Notion, it's systems in general, but obviously Notion is the tool that we use, so it's going to be highly related to Notion. For those of you that have not seen myself or John before, we are Notion nerds, and we love talking all things Notion. Jonathan, do you want to do a bit of a quick intro as to what's going on with us?
With us?
Yeah.
You could be a bit more specific.
This.
Did you really set up for that?
Oh, we are PPs. We are professional podcasters.
We're not.
Do I still have the other one? Oh, yes, I do. We have the other one. Episode 3 is live now.
Episode 3 of the Notion Nerds podcast is now live. For those who haven't already seen it, we're talking about too many databases. That's a common thing that both me and Danny see, is the fact that people have lots and lots of databases and get really carried away and then feel really overwhelmed and then switch to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hear all about that on the Notion Nerds podcast. Available on lots of platforms, including Apple Podcasts now. We are that official that we're on.
I am on it today with the stream. See, make sure to check out the Notion Nerds podcast. And I couldn't remember all of the things, so I just said all of the things.
Spotify, Overcast Radio, whatever that is, I'm not entirely sure. And Apple Podcasts. So there we are.
Right. And because this is only our second week on this channel, make sure you share it on social media and the rest of it so people can find where we are. Homesick Mac has joined us straight at the start this week, which is great to see. And Homesick, I did mention to John, and I told John that he is now almost in the song, almost in the Notion song. I know you're loving that, John, aren't you? Yeah. Feeling included.
I feel appreciated now.
Oh. Hello, Roxana. There's a different designy thing. I like that. Why has that happened? No, I have no idea why that's happened. No, I do know why that's happened. I like this one. I think we're going to stick with this. But I don't know about you, John. Actually, we're a team now, aren't we? Do you prefer this to the other one?
Yeah, no, I do actually prefer that one. Take that back. There are never too many databases. There are. And you can hear all about that on the podcast.
Yeah, there are definitely too many podcasts.
Too many what?
Your feed on my home screen also works. Am I missing something here, John?
Yeah, probably. Your feed on my home screen also works. Oh, is that in the podcast? Oh, that's cool. That's nice. I like that.
That is cool. Roxana, good to see you. Sarah, good to see you as well. So, systems thinking. First things first, Jonathan, I'm going to ask you a very serious question.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you rebuilt your system? Too many to count?
Yeah, probably. It depends on what you mean by how many times, like rebuilt. Are we talking ground up? Are we talking tweaks? Are we talking big changes? Because
don't include tweaks, because if we do that, it's like every day. Add a property, take a property.
I've had rebuilds maybe 4 or 5 times. 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 10, 15.
Okay. And what was the reason for the changing of the system? Could you remember any like big things that you're like, this is something I just had to get rid of, or this is something I needed to include. Brilliant timing, John. Don't spit it all over the mic.
I think the most recent one, the most recent big removal was my weekly agenda, which actually made up a lot of my system. And hello. That made up the big bulk of my system. It was where basically I assign a week and all my tasks and a day, and all my tasks kind of fall into line. It was when I was using Kanban view more, or a board view more. And it worked for a while for me, but in the end, it just became a friction point. Even though I could overwrite that, and yeah, I guess. And then in the end, I just was kind of, no, I've had enough now. I just want to be able to put the darn tasks in, set the tasks, and off I go.
I just want to get stuff done.
Yeah, and there's a point I've seen it a lot over the YouTube space. Like Notion can very easily become someone who, for people who just get distracted and like to play all the time and then not actually get tasks done. Danny.
Who's done over 100 videos and who's just broken 10? Exactly. Carry on. Mr. I use a VA for everything.
That's me working smarter, not harder, Danny.
It's not on my banner anymore. It doesn't count.
It does. We all know. People here know that it's smarter and harder on the banner. So shush. There we are.
Hasn't been on the banner for like 2 months because I changed it, because that was a task that I wanted to do and I changed it. But yeah, what Danielle, I did say that right, didn't I? Yeah. A really good point. Lots of times in the beginning, now it's a bit more stable. So when it comes to systems and systems building a system, building a process, SOPs, whatever term or word you want to use, I'm sure there's loads more out there that I just haven't thought of. But there's essentially a pattern, a routine that you go through, and building the system around the routine, which I know for me anyway, when I started using applications similar to Notion, I used Todoist for like a week. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And then went to Notion. And then it was just Notion. But
Todoist again. We did that last week.
I know. I didn't even acknowledge that, but yes. The process of building up my system in Notion was very difficult to start with, not because of the application, but because I didn't know my system.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true with a lot of people that start using Notion. A lot of the people that I've spoken to, that I've worked with, they start using Notion and they're either using an application that does the system bit for them, so they don't have to think about any of it because it's a boxed app, or they've come to Notion wanting to build something that's customizable, that's for them, and they like the idea of their system, and then they have no idea what their system is, so they don't know how to build it.
Yeah, and I think that's where Notion's power is when you're ready to grow, when you're ready to move, and you're ready to work exactly how you want to. If you're someone who's really new to having your own systems and putting systems in place, and you don't really know what a system even is, how it even works, what it needs to have, then Notion is more of a distraction than it is a solution. Because for you to build an effective Notion system, you need to have a rough idea of what your processes are. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have every single little bit of information, but as long as you have enough. I'm trying to be like professional. Continue finishing my sentence. We just put that up there, interrupting my flow. Seriously,
didn't have to pay attention to it. That was for the audience, John, not you. Creaky door. We've got a creaky door in the house and it gets more oil. Something you brought up in that brought up a question to my mind is, what is a system? What is a system? To you, if someone was to say, what is a system? What is a productivity system? What is a system? I'm going to be academic here. Can you define that? Can you define that? And now he's going to Google it.
No, Google? What are you on about? What commoner do you think I am? I will not Google it. I will look
You
at
can Bing.
my Notion Notes database and find the definition that I pulled up that I really liked and don't remember anymore.
Flashcards database, space repetition. Come on. But no, generally, what is generally, anyway, not genuinely, generally, what is a system? I see Lizzie's put up a good point. GTD as a system. Is that a system or a methodology?
That's a methodology. A system is where you connect multiple different. It's an an interconnected amount of steps that go together to help you make things easier, which was really good English. What are you, that's beautiful. I like that. Inputs, processes, then process and outputs. Yes, that's a nice little. I like that.
Yep, that's
pretty
I actually blogged something very similar to that as well. It's to me, the system. You could define system in lots of different ways, but the system is where you go from, like Sarah's put, an input, you get an output, and the system is the bit in the middle. The system is the process. It's how you get whatever you're consuming, how you get that to something actionable that's ideally intentional as well. And that can involve lots of different things. That could include tasks, projects, goals, the alphabet of KPIs and OKRs, and all the other things in between. But essentially, the system is built to help you go from input to output. And I like input output as a formula nerd, but essentially it's consumption of information and sharing of information. Sharing of information could be for free, or it could be products, services, etc.
Yeah, I think that's a little too shallow a focus.
You think?
For you, like you're like it's putting something in, like reading a thing and then bringing something out. That's very much focused on the creative side. And sometimes when you get an output, that output could be something that goes into another input, because it's kind of like a circle. It kind of goes on. I think I prefer a Nerdy Notioneer's explanation, which is kind of what I was trying to say when you put me on the spot, didn't prep me whatsoever.
I don't prep for any of this stuff. I just come straight.
Neither did I. You just fire it at me and expect me to think.
Fire some questions at me instead of just answering them.
I will.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the stream would be. Silence.
Oh, you're in a bitchy mood today. A system is a process of steps that will help you get to a goal, whatever that goal may be, whether that's being a traditional goal or an output or something will happen at the end. I think that's the best way for me explaining it is yeah, that's what I would say. What do you think a system is?
I've explained that like twice already. Like we went through my understanding when we went through Sarah's comment, and I think something to note, which is very applicable in whatever world that you're in, or we're in, or conversation you have, is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 different types of definition for system. Google has 5 or 6 different things as well, and we both have different definitions of system. But essentially, it's in order to get something done, which is a methodology. So I don't think you can have a system without a method behind it. So for me, a system requires some sort of framework. Your head is off screen, by the way, John. Yeah, lean the other way. So for me, to have a system, you need a framework or methodology behind you. So if you are going to have a definition of system, you need to have using maybe parts, principles, procedures, like developing a framework to getting something done, like using a framework or using a methodology. The framework and the system isn't the actual task database, the project database. I would class in Notion the stuff, the database is the actual data, the things you're moving as the system. But I would say that the methods or the framework behind why you've done it that way is the framework of the system. So for you, you've got your theme of the day. I would say theme of the day is a productivity framework or methodology that is supported by your Notion system.
Yeah. I found the definition that I liked, which is why I disappeared off screen for a minute. A system is a set of things that connect together because we're being very specific because we're talking specifics in our world, but all a system is a set of things that are interconnected together, that connect together, and then they produce their own pattern of behavior. You want your system to work itself, sorry, so you don't have to. You yourself personally, knowing what you've got now, is probably the most tuned system possible because it does most of the grunt work for you. It does the reassigning of tasks, reassigning of projects. It's taking a set of things, whatever it might be, connecting them together so that they can just do what they need to do without you having to worry about it.
And I like that I don't know whether it was a correction or just a different phrasing, Tia, or a nerdy notion here, or at least the general direction was extended from you need to know the destination, or at least the general direction.
Yes.
I agree. And the system can help you get there. Human body is a system. It is. Input being food. We're not gonna talk about the output. But yeah, the body is a system to get something done. However, I mean, this is coming like anatomy and physiology. What is the destination? What is the goal of the system? I mean, that could go really existential right there. What is the?
I don't think a human body itself is a system. I think it's a series of interconnected systems. I think it's deeper than that. There are different. Oh, that's a nice question. I like that. Because there is inside the human body, there are multiple smaller systems.
Human body is an organism.
Yeah.
That has systems involved in it.
Yeah.
But it is still essentially a system because it moves forwards, which is a really good analogy. How then would you apply that analogy through an application like Notion? Would you say your task database is like the heart? Because you need, in my eyes, you need a task database or something similar to get something done. I'm liking this analogy. I want to expand on it.
Yeah, that's it depends on where your focus is. Your heart can be different. It could be, it can. It's very different there. What's the main focus for you could mean your tasks may not be the main focus. Systems are within systems within system. Systemception. There you go, just for you.
It's just like databases in Notion.
Yeah, databases within databases within databases.
Yep. But yes, it's very true, which is, I mean, this is 18 minutes and we're already into like systemception.
That's why I did the blah from Inception.
Yeah, I know, I get that now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But well, I'm multitasking. I'm not very good at multitasking. That's why I have Notion to do it for me. But when it comes to building the system in Notion, I guess, just like Sarah said, are we building? So is Notion the organism and we're building systems inside of it?
That's deep.
So is Notion the body and the systems we're using inside of Notion the systems that work, that get things going, that get things moving? But then obviously Notion as an application.
Personally, I prefer the car analogy in that example. A car is a system in itself with multiple subsystems and systemception.
Input, output, movement.
Yeah, but I think that Notion is more of a vehicle than a body.
A vehicle to get you in a place.
Yeah, I feel like because that's just I think for me, a vehicle fits more Notion than a body. But then again, honestly, here we go. We're going to go a bit deeper here. I think Notion or any other tool is the vehicle. And then your main kind of overarching system, which has all the sub-processors, whether that's Power, whether that's GTD, whether it's whatever it might be, whether it's the second brain, that's another analogy. That's like the driver that helps to make each part move correctly.
Defining functions. Functions, for me, are just something that moves, something that's not static. And I know that's very, very broad, but a function is something that's dynamic. And that could be a database, that could be a property, that could be a page, anything that's not static, or has the ability to be dynamic. So even if it is a page, you can add to it, because essentially that page is serving a function. But then again, this is an interesting one. Not the direction I thought the conversation was going to go, but
no, you've kind of really. I'm just like, wow, it's like 8 o'clock, and I'm just like, it's supposed to be fun, Danny.
You're going to need something stronger.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the second brain, this is an interesting topic. Obviously, I imagine most of us, I would imagine most of us in this in the live stream are familiar with Tiago's work about the second brain. And for those of you that don't know, Tiago Forte has done a second brain course, which basically suggests that you record everything in a digital tool, whether that is one tool or numerous tools, all to feed into a second brain-like thing. That was really technical right there. But a second brain, I think there's more to digital tools than just the brain. Because it's yes, the brain obviously functions everything. But I don't think... I think there's more to digital tools than just the brain. Are you looking at Sarah's comment? No, I haven't seen. I saw it come up. A system is defined by its functions within the larger system. Notion is a tool to implement a system which is within a larger productivity system.
It doesn't necessarily have to be within a larger productivity system. It could make up your entire system. I need to finish that sentence, but I was needed to take a breath as well.
Breathing's important.
Believe it or not, somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good comment. Very good point. I think so. When it comes to, I'm going to relate this back to coaching because coaching is my profession. A coach has a toolbox of skills or things that they can apply to a coaching environment. Depending on the environment, depending on the context, would depend on what tool they choose to use. And I think it's very similar within productivity, because productivity in itself is just the ability to do something consistently, essentially. And Notion is really good for some of those things, but is really bad for other things. Like if you want to make something, I don't know, make an image or make a video, Notion doesn't do that. That's not the tool for you. So for being productive, maybe use something like Canva or Affinity or Photoshop or whatever tool, which is where the toolbox of tools helps your system.
But is that toolbox not a system as well?
Yes. Which is where the systems inside a systems works.
So what is the master system, Danny?
Mindset.
Oh shit, that was a good response.
You were like, oh shit, I thought I had them.
That's a really good response. I like that one.
Yeah, mindset. Because at the end of the day, no matter what system you've built, no matter what apps you use, what tools you've got in your toolbox, if your brain says no, you ain't doing it.
I think that's been very much, it's been very applicable over the last week with what's been going on in the US. It's like you need to take and the UK with the lockdown coming in now. It's like you've got to be able to ensure that your mindset is supported. If you're feeling down and not,
have you heard us talk?
I realize I keep looking at the screen when my camera's there, so I need to start looking at there when I'm looking at you. But then I'm not looking at you.
Or you could just put your camera in line with your screen.
No, I can't, because I cannot find the stupid stand that will mean it attaches to my darn screen. I have been waiting for Elgato to release it again so I can buy the damn thing, but I can't. So instead I'm stuck with a tiny stupid piddly ass thing that I'm tying to something else. And that's just a whole nother rant that is just so irritating.
Control your mindset. But I mean, so what I try to do when it comes to actions and getting things done, I build the system for my worst day. The worst day being my mindset being really bad, and I don't want to do anything. I've just seen Sarah put a nice long comment, so I'll bring that up in a second. So I try and focus on the controllables, and the controllables are are the things that are in my digital system. But yeah, let's have a look at what Sarah's saying. Patterns and circular process of review, feedback loops are vital to systems thinking, and Notion is a great tool at this. Being able to utilize templates is a big part of why. Also, emergence through relations and roll-ups. Yes, very, very true. Feedback loops is an interesting one that you bring up. So, I guess I'm talking, John. Feedback loops to you. What is a feedback loop to you?
There's no other response apart from something that provides me feedback. When I take an action, I get feedback. That's the best way of explaining what a feedback loop is. It's a piece of feedback which then you can loop back around.
So for me, there is one critical step that I think the majority of people, not necessarily us, but the majority of people in general, don't think about, which is the reflective process to engage in the feedback. Every single action you take or don't take, there is feedback you can take from it. If you're silent, it is an action. You are actively not saying something. And there is a reason for that. Being reflective on that feedback loop is the step that I think a lot of people forget or don't engage with, because it takes time. It takes a lot of time to be reflective and actually critically and unbiased actually look at what you're doing, why you're doing it. So I mean, let's very quickly, as an example, why am I live streaming? Because I enjoy it. Okay, do I really enjoy it or do I not? Am I talking to you for a reason? Yes. What is that reason? Is that reason justified? And you can carry on with the so what question. So what? So what? So what? Get all the way back with that reflective process in the feedback loop. And it's the same with reading any article or capturing anything, which is when apply this to Notion with the Notion Clipper. I choose not to use I don't remember what the clipper's called. Is it Advanced Notion Clipper or Add-on Notion Clipper, whatever the thing is?
Notion Saver, I think.
Maybe. I actively choose Save to Notion. I actively choose not to use that because it takes away the reflective aspect of the feedback loop that I get when clipping the note. That's an action. That's a choice from my part to change my system to not necessarily make it less fluid or less convenient, but make me actively engage in whatever I'm doing rather than just, oh yeah, let's clip that, and then have a catalog to it.
This actually goes on to okay.
No, carry on.
This goes on from something from back when I was doing guitar and like learning in general. There is this aspect of like, when you want to practice efficiently, you have to plan what you're doing, then you have to do it, and then importantly, you have to reflect, which I think, as you were saying before, is something that not many people do. They don't reflect on what they're doing. They just jump from plan, do, plan, do, plan, do, plan, do. And then because you don't reflect, it's like you've got the brakes on on like a really fast car. Your brain is incredibly fast and is able to do a lot of things, but if you don't reflect, you've got your foot on the brake and you're not moving anywhere. You're just spinning your wheels and you're not able to move. So reflection is really important, which leads on to my next question. Danny, how do you reflect? Because you don't journal.
So this is interesting, and I'm going to bring up Sarah's point very quickly because I was going to expand on that one actually. Feedback loop, a self-magnifying or self-diminishing pattern over time. Yeah, I guess to an extent, maybe. I feel like I want to get Sarah on the stream at some point, maybe in the future. I don't know whether you'd be up for that to have this conversation because, yeah, there's some interesting points that you're bringing up that I feel like would be better expanded on in person.
Sarah, just a question. I know you can't actually reply.
Well,
it would be amazing if you weren't just Googling this. It's fine if you are. I don't really care. But if you have this on a list ready to reply to, I love it. It's brilliant. Just That's not a call out, but it's just like, wow, there's some really good stuff to talk about in there.
So many things to expand on. So when it comes to reflection, I think there's an interesting comparison between reflection and evaluation. What is the difference between reflection and evaluation? Evaluating something is very easy. That was good. That was bad. That's easy. I've evaluated. I've now reflected. No, you haven't. You haven't reflected. You've evaluated the result. Reflection is going further. So how I reflect, that goes down into a lot into my strategy of why I do things, the way I do things. And I mean, I mean, this is a great time that I could segue into YouTube, but I won't. I think my comments are delayed. Not Googling. Okay, yeah, so just saying it. Yeah, the comments are slightly delayed from you, I think. It's like 10 seconds or so. But yeah, so when it comes to reflecting, when I've done anything, when I've taken an action, essentially, I then, depending on the action I've taken, if there are measurable metrics to the action, I can then evaluate those measurable metrics, i.e. click-through rate, watch time, watch percentage, follower count, likes, all the vanity metrics in social media, the rest of that. When it comes to producing something, how many times I've done it, how many videos I've done, how long it took me, all of those sort of metrics. I can evaluate those measurable metrics and say, this was better than this was worse than this. But then I would reflect on that and go, okay, why is this better? Why is this not better? So what? And then that continues. I am one of those people that doesn't really shut off. My brain does not go, let's not think about this now. It's constantly on the move. So I'm constantly critiquing, reflecting, light reflection. So not on action reflection. What is it? I can't remember the term. There's a term for it. It's basically post reflection, but there is an actual term for it. But I'm doing that all the time with different decisions I've made. So I don't need to sit down and go, I'm going to reflect on this thing, because most of my reflection stems from evaluations I've done on measurable metrics. I do reflect on a lot of the other actions I take and things that I read, yes.
So what if there are no metrics?
Yeah, that's where I was going. I knew that would be the question. So I do... if there are no measurable metrics, then essentially you're subjective. You have a subjective evaluation of something you've done or haven't done. As soon as you bring subjectivity into it, you need to think about the context you're in, the biases you have, and the state that you're in at the time. So for me, I suffered with depression and anxiety, and I still do, because it doesn't go away. And having that mindset, I used to reflect, but I was negatively reflecting on all of those things because of the mental state I was in at the time, because I was using my bias, subjectivity towards the actions I was taking. And then I was negatively reflecting on that, and that was going all the way backwards, and that just didn't lead to a good place. So when there isn't, like, hi Gail, good to see you. This is sort of Notion, sort of not. But when there isn't measurable metrics to look at, I will. This is a process in my head. I look at it as if I'm talking to someone else.
Yeah.
So I will look at the action. I will be as unbiased as possible, and then reflect and evaluate on those actions. But yeah, I'm curious. How do you reflect on things that don't have measurable metrics? And is it similar?
Yeah, of course it is. It's boring, I know, but yeah, it is a similar thing. And I think I'm less stats driven than you as well. Because could you just, with the stats and with experience of like, could you not still negatively attribute to these stats? Because I know I have.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've looked at stats, and so you always have to have that view of, how am I responding to this? Why am I responding this way? You always have to have that loop, no matter whether it's stats driven or not.
Yeah. And this is where what I've done in my system, bringing this back, what I've done in my system is with the evaluations, yeah, with the evaluations and essentially the reflective triggers. I don't know whether that's a term that someone's used, but I've just used it. If not, I'm gonna claim it. I claim it. But yeah, so I have tasks in my Notion that trigger evaluation, whether that's of metrics or whether that's of a note, and the note could be a subjective assessment, evaluation, comment, thought about anything from the world. Oh, Sarah's jumped on YouTube. Yeah, so I have tasks that relate to evaluation, and those tasks will then trigger reflection. Those reflective processes then happen multiple different times. So it gives me a different environment, a different context, a different mindset, and a different scope, because I will have had time to reflect on the original reflection, and then go back onto that. But yeah, gonna bring these up and read through these. I think reviews reflections are different than feedback loops. Reviews are a very conscious process, whereas feedback loops continuous on regardless. Interesting. Actually, the reason reviews are necessary are to rein in feedback loops. Interesting. So it sounds like feedback loops are unconscious things, because if you're not reviews are very conscious. Yeah, so if you're separating reviews and reflection as conscious actions, conscious processes, and feedback loops as unconscious processes, if they're unconscious, how do you then reflect and review on feedback loops? And how do you know that they're a thing if they're unconscious? That would be my thought. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd be wondering the same.
Because essentially everyone has unconscious biases, but the only way you can action an unconscious bias is by making it conscious. Otherwise, you can't action it because you don't know you're doing it. It's the same with all the systemic stuff that goes on with the governance and all of the different things that happen. If you don't know, yeah, I know I'm going to avoid most of it, but the stuff that does happen, if you don't know what you're doing or what you're not doing, you can't action or not action that thing. So you need to become aware of the unconscious feedback loops, if we're going to use that term. So how you action an unconscious thing, I don't know. It's the same as me trying to learn something that I don't know. I can't do it because I don't know it. Did that make sense?
Yes. No, that's interesting. I like what Gail's asked.
Nope. Oh, the other one.
Yep.
So the search for objective metrics helped you clarify your progress and get away from negative pulling thoughts. How did Notion help you do that? I'm going to leave that one up. It wasn't the search for... Yeah. Actually, I might not leave it up because I'm not going to sit like this while talking. It wasn't necessarily a search for objective metrics. It was using the objective metrics I already have access to and can already see, and I was already reacting to. So I didn't have to go out. If you take me off of social media and get rid of all of those metrics, I didn't have to go out and look at the amount of work I was doing on something. I knew in myself, okay, I could put more work into this, or I could put less work into this, or I was actively choosing not to do something. I was actively choosing to go on social media, or I was actively choosing not to go on social media. I was actively choosing to go to the gym or not go to the gym. So I was using those, whether you class them as objective metrics or not, they were metrics of how many times I went to the gym, or how many times I decided to go to the gym, or how many times it took me to tell myself I need to go to the gym. It's those things that I was becoming conscious of. I was making myself aware of the decisions that I was making. So using the gym example, when I wasn't going to the gym, I was just saying to myself, I don't want to go to the gym, and that was it. And I didn't really question why that was my decision. And then when I questioned that, I then could reflect and go, actually, I probably should go to the gym if I want to improve my performance for, at the time, it was trampoline. So I asked myself that question. And then I used the measurable metric from being conscious of, oh, I'm not going to do that, and going, okay, how many times do I say I'm not going to go to the gym? And as I became consciously aware of the amount of times I said, no, I don't need to go to the gym, I then reacted and said, actually, no, I do want to go to the gym. And then I made that part of my identity. And tying this into Notion, when I'd become conscious of the decisions I was choosing to make or not to make, I then decided, okay, I'm going to take action on this thing. And how I took action is I made it a task, or I made it a habit. I made it something that I had to do in my Notion. So even if my body didn't want to go to the gym, and I guess unconsciously to an extent, I was saying in my head, I don't want to go to the gym, I had something in my face going, you need to go to the gym. So I had to challenge the unconscious bias every single day to go to the gym. I had to constantly ask myself that question, are you going to go to the gym? It wasn't something that, no, I won't go to the gym. No, I won't go to the gym. It's, I'm not going to go to the gym, but I need to actively say I'm not going to, and then I have to justify why. Yeah? Does that answer, does that work, John?
Yeah.
Yeah? Have you gone through something similar? I feel like I've just spoken for the last 20 minutes.
It was the last 5, not 20.
No, but it feels like that, which is why I guess that's one of the side effects of me talking quickly. I'm drinking to make sure that you can say something, and now you're just going to drink. I'm going to bring up Gail's question while you can think of an answer. Were there specific metrics that helped you more than others in defeating negative thoughts and giving yourself credit for the real progress you've made? I can expand on that one in a minute, but Jonathan, go. I gave you the whole time to think through.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I was thinking of other things. I was listening to the question.
And you're stalling.
Yes, I'm good at stalling.
Are you?
No. Your question. Repeat the question for me, sir. Which question do you want answering?
This isn't a Q&A show. It was just like a general question as to your process or the way that you've overcome potentially negative thoughts or avoiding doing something that you don't want to do, or using Notion to help you do something that you didn't want to do, or tracking progress, or making something actionable or intentional.
Anything that goes into my Notion is actionable or intentional. If it's not there, I don't do it. It's the act of adding it in there. It's me going in there and saying, whether it's a task, whether it's something like, right, these are the things that I said I'm going to do, and I'm going to do them. I think that for me is, if it's not intentional, it's not in Notion or on my calendar if it's an event, for example. I think that for me, just by having it in Notion, I am going, yes, I want this. I'm going to do this. This is part of what I want to do.
Okay. I've just read through Sarah's comments, and they're interesting. Interesting. I don't know whether I agree with these or not. I think I may sit on the fence. So, for example, sorry?
I don't.
You don't agree. Your self-diminish habits you don't like. Your self-magnify habits you do like, or you like. And then says, so we need to keep track and review how we've done over time. So, I went to click off it and then I clicked on the next one. So, when it comes to habits, do you track your habits?
No.
But do you do your habits?
Yeah, because they're habits.
Okay, so if you're trying to learn a new habit or apply a new habit into your life or anything like that, do you?
Yeah, they go in there because I want to start doing them. Yes, they go into my Notion. There's something that I have. Habits are a weird one. Habits are a very strange one. Like, we've got to be careful when it comes to trying to instill new habits, because if you are a driven person, you will try to do too much too quickly. I am a very driven person.
With something, I would imagine.
Huh?
I would imagine it comes down to like certain things. So for me, I'm like, if I want to do something, that's it. Boof, I'm going. So I'm driven in that sense. But if there's something on the side and I'm not that interested, I'll put enough in so I'm not failing, but I won't like head first. Let's spend hours in this thing.
And another thing you've got to, for me anyway, I've got to make sure that any habit that I'm instilling can fairly match the other things that I have to do. Because for me, I can't just, you, for example, Danny, can just go. You don't have other commitments that are in that, or issues that you've got to face as well. So when you don't have any other responsibilities or things around you that you have to manage, then instilling a habit's very easy. But I feel easier.
Yeah. I know
But
you meant.
you've got to. It's not as simple as just let's add another habit in. Let's just do this every day and then everything will be fine. Because unless I want that habit, it doesn't matter how many days I do it for. The moment it's gone, it's gone.
So when it comes to where is it? This one. Connecting it to larger objective goals, aspirations helps me in reflecting on those frequently. I mean, you're right.
Yeah, just.
Oh, you saw goals and you thought, So when it comes to habits and tasks, habits and tasks are kind of separate. But for me, the habits that I want to do and the habits that I don't want to do are exactly the same thing. I want to make sure I'm drinking water every day. Do I do it? Only because it's in Notion. I don't want to check my emails every day because some of them get frustrating to read, but I do it. So both of those things, one of them I want to do, one of them I don't want to do. Do I forget both of them? Yes. Do I do both of them? Yes. It's habits to me are things that I should be doing. I know I should be doing daily and repeatedly, but because of the focus of my mind at the time, I will forget to do them, irrespective of whether I want to do it or whether I don't want to do it. I will forget it. Take today, for example. This may sound nasty to some of you. I didn't clean my teeth or drink any water until like 3 p.m. because I just forgotten. I woke up and I had an idea when I woke up and went poof, straight into work essentially. And I was just going at it constantly. And then I looked at my Notion dashboard. I was like, oh, I haven't done that thing. I should probably go do that. And then tasks are very similar in that if I want to do it or I don't want to do it, it's the same thing. I treat them exactly the same. So I wouldn't say nothing really appeals to me first. It's just, I'm going to do it on the list. But then I guess that's kind of regimented when looking at the actions I need to take rather than going with the things that I want to do. But I understand that some people want to do the tasks that they don't like in the morning and then the tasks that they do like later on. But for me, I just follow down the list. I just go down the list. But that works for me. It doesn't work for everyone. Have you seen?
Can you please put up the connecting it to your larger objectives, goals, and aspirations? Because I do have some things to say about that one. We've already done an episode and a podcast episode on this, so this I'd love to dive deeper into with you on stream as well, because you're moaning at me that I'm not engaging and nothing. I understand the concept behind the psychological concept behind objectives, goals, and aspirations, and reflecting on them, and wanting to. You missed an awful lot, and wanting to reach a higher stage, like be able to keep moving forward. But I find that goals often get in the way, because then if I don't reach those goals, even after reflection, I'll know, yes, no, I just need to make sure to change this and change this and change this and then change this. But often there's such a big list, it can become very... Often what I want to achieve one day changes so quickly. That's another one. Yeah, I did see that too. Just stop jumping around.
It's just the next thing on the list. I'm assuming this is where you're going to take it.
Yeah. So bad habits that are self-rewarding. Well, if they're not harming me, I don't care. That might be really flippant, but if it's not causing me or someone else pain, I don't care. Once they which means I do review them to a certain extent, but I feel there's a point where you're trying to optimize too much of your life that it just becomes one thing. There's no spark of being able to do things sporadically, having fun. As someone who has 2 children with a disability, my wife who also has a long-term condition, I have long-term health conditions. Sometimes I cannot reach what I want to do. And so I've kind of got to a point where I'm like, I am on a journey that I am not finishing. It is a journey to wherever it might take me. And that's just how I work. If it's something that has to be done by a certain time, that's a deadline. I don't really see that as a goal. It's just something I have to do by this time. Although, strictly speaking, if you want to see that as a goal, you can. But I find the long-term goal thing, you're just limited. It's very limiting in a way, because what could happen, for example, for me, I'm making a shift in my business, but literally 1 month ago, my goal was to reach, 2,000-3,000 subscribers, but that's not going to happen now because I'm shifting my focus to something. Don't you do that grin. I know what you're doing. Don't do that. Like, that is I want to have that spark. Everything that's my goal, which is a shite one because it's not measurable at all. Oh yeah, no, we can swear. It's great.
It's not smart.
Huh?
It's not smart.
Oh, fuck smart. Seriously.
That was drilled down my throat at uni.
I hate smart goals. They do my head in. They suck the fun out of everything. I understand the concept of them. And yes, in a perfect world where everything works in a certain way, and we are going through a flipping pandemic, and that really shifted my focus. Because there are a lot of things out of your control. There are a lot of things in your control, and you can only control certain things. And often the goals, the only thing I want to achieve is to continue running my business, which every single day I get up and do a task, however small it may be, which some days, let's be honest, is all I can do, because I could be pulled away at a moment's notice to my children or to my wife, or have to help or do something else. Like, as long as I am making small, regular steps towards keeping my business going and growing my business, which is a very unsmart goal, I just want to see growth. I just want to keep my business running, and I just want to enjoy every stage of my business. I don't care about anything else.
And
that goal moves. Yeah, sensitivity. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, for me, I have so many things that I want to do, so many things that I want to achieve, and I can't. My only thing that I want to achieve is that I can keep growing my business, keep supporting the people that I support, keep helping. And then that means I can be flexible and enjoy what I do. Because if I'm just going towards this one goal, because quite frankly, we can only concentrate on a very few things at a time, or at least I can't. Like, my main focus is to enjoy my business and grow my business. Nothing else. Focus fatigue. Yeah, I honestly believe it is, because you cannot focus for, scientifically, between 4 to 5 hours. Beyond 4 to 5 hours of actual deep focus, you can't do much more than that. You can train yourself to be longer if you really want to, and everybody can be an outlier and blah blah fucking blah. But at the end of the day, as long as I'm getting towards where I want to achieve, which all I want to achieve is growth to my business. I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but it's so the thing I find very frustrating in this productivity space is everything's got to be about reaching that next target, the next milestone, the next this, the next that. And frankly, for the vast majority of people, you're setting yourself up to fail because people cannot sustain. Few people can sustain at that degree. And what happens when it doesn't go right? Yes, you can review, but I don't know many people who could positively go, well, that's okay. I can do better next time. And then you'll do it again. That's okay. I just need to change this, and this to get better. And I'm going to do all of these things to change, and I'm going to change everything. And yeah.
Before I bring up what Roxanne's put in, sort of revolving back to the habits very quickly, is every habit is a choice. And it comes back to that mindset thing that I said. Every time I do the habit, I'm actively choosing to do it. Every time I don't do it, I actively choose not to do it. If I'm actively choosing not to do something on a regular basis, I'm conscious that I'm actively choosing not to do it, which means that I need to question why I'm not doing it, which brings in that review process. So I don't need to set up a time to review, but I'm still reviewing it, but I'm just doing it as it goes. That way, I mean, it's auto-regulation, essentially. I'm auto-regulating the amount that I do the habits or I don't do the habits. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think we have the same opinion on that one.
I still think long-term goals are good, even if they change, because I have something to look forward. Having tasks in place, steps, go. Yeah, I don't think goals in themselves are bad. Having too many goals can be distracting. And I think it's very dependent on what goals you set, why you've set the goals, and how you intend on achieving the goals. Yeah, I think, like I've said this a couple of times, I think I mentioned it on the podcast, but the only true measurable goal for the majority of us is a financial one. Because at the end of the day, the majority of people, their goal is to have, not everyone wants a family, but some sort of working relationship, whether that's like good friends or good community or a family, something in life as a rough goal. But when it comes to working or business, whether you own your own business, which I think most of us do to some extent, but all of that comes down to money. How much do you need to sustain your life? Then that tails into how many clients do you need, how much marketing do you need to do, how much do I need to pay this, and all the other different metrics that you can measure essentially come down to how much money do I need? which is a sad reality, I think.
We're in a capitalist world.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
Money rules. And at the end of the day, if you have enough money to live and live comfortably with fun, that's the ultimate target in my mind anyway. If you're having fun if you're having fun in life, just generally just enjoying what you're doing and it's sustainable, then you're good. And then money's obviously needed for that thing to happen. But I'm young and potentially naive.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what Homesick says on this.
He's actually said something.
Yeah, I was reading the thing above that. There's a quote that's I'm going to bring up Gail's thing first. I'll get to it, Homesick. Don't worry. There's a quote that says the most dangerous words in mankind is "this time it will be different." That's interesting. It's interesting. You've got to make it different, but yeah. A goal can also be to release 100 YouTube videos. It's precise, measurable. True. I mean, it was a goal of mine. If you can class that as a goal. I think I got a video coming out in November at some point with a goal of 365 subs, and I think it's 52 videos. Yeah. But it was just this, I thought, I'm going to make a video, and it wasn't the goal that I cared about. It wasn't making the 100 videos or 52 videos. It wasn't making the subscribers. It was making myself accountable to the idea of doing the tasks that needed to get it done.
I think it's a set it and forget it mentality. Like you set it and then you forget it even exists. And I think that's the best way of explaining a goal and how I work. When I think about it, I do have goals. Of course I have goals. I have things I want to achieve. Duh, don't we all? We are humans. We like to achieve things. but I set it and then forget it. I don't need to have it in my Notion. Or if I do have it in my Notion, which I do have it in my Notion, I just don't look at it.
Certain goals are motivation forward, while to others the same goals can be a wall of anxiety and uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it is very true.
Absolutely.
Very, very true. Because we all work very differently. There are similarities to our systems, to our processes, to the apps that we use potentially, but we all work very, very differently. I mean, Jonathan and I are very, very similar in a lot of ways, but we are very different in a lot of other ways. I think
far more attractive. Even I can't take that one seriously. Even I can't take that one seriously.
Your wife must think so. Are you married? That was a bad assumption. Okay. I can't quite see your hands. Okay, cool. Whew, safe. All right, let's go to Sarah's comment. I think this is where I was at. 80-20 comes in here and focus on the 20% of activities that will bring you the biggest return. Yep, yeah, the 80-20 rule. I don't know who originally said it. I try not to quote people because I can never remember who originally said things. If it was that person, then cool. But I just know
it is very true. Yeah.
Yeah, but was it, or was it his apprentice that said it to him and then he was just quoted for it? You don't really know. But hey, that's my skepticism. But yeah, 80-20. And it kind of ties into the way I do tasks. I haven't really thought about applying 80-20, but the majority of my actionable tasks that I have in Notion that I do apply to the majority of the work that I'm going to get done. So that doesn't necessarily split up time-wise, but a lot of the actions that I do during the day, the smaller actions, aren't directed towards the work business goals. I assume that's a comment further down. But yeah, they're not directed at work-specific goals or anything like that, but they fill up a lot of my time sort of like here and there because I enjoy them. But the big goals that I make sure I get done, which I haven't measured it, but they hit the 80%. So yeah, I'm just looking at Sarah, trading and financial freedom, which brings us, yes, measurable metrics. This is an interesting conversation. My goal is to inform, assist, and make a person smile at the end of my video. Nice. I like that. Agreed. Silence. Danny is left speechless by Jonathan's. Yes. Yes, I am. Almost as bad as PB. Ugh. Right. He's forgotten already, guys.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, peanut butter.
How did it take
because you have so many, we have so many illiterate, PPs and I don't know, it's like PBs.
Exactly, it's just PPs and nunas.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Yeah, I agree with Homesick Mac, but I also think it has to do with people setting goals and not coming up with a plan to achieve them. Yeah, and that comes back to the actions you're going to take from the goals. So sort of like the set it and what did you say? Set it and forget it, was it? Yeah. So setting up the goals and then just not necessarily forgetting it, but setting a plan for it. I mean, I guess to an extent, depending on how you want to measure goals, each project of mine, i.e. a video, is a goal. And I'm setting actions for it. But then
I'm the same with projects. Yeah. So does that mean my project is? It's. I suppose I do have mini goals then. In that, if we're labeling it like that, like completing a project is a goal. So I do have that plan. I have a full process, a plan in my notes database template which goes through, and it's like, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to this? Why am I doing this? So yeah, I was.
But yes, did Sarah also agree with Roxana that they make the list of goals, and over time, if they don't have a process in place, that's where anxiety and uncertainty comes in. And it's very true. I think to an extent, maybe more experience for this. I'm talking for myself here, but more experience without goals. Like when I was using goals, so I did use goals when I was at uni. They were a big part of what I did. Assessment driven, education driven, career driven. I was using goals, and that was the worst thing that I could have done, because my mindset just wasn't great. When I didn't hit a goal, it was just the worst thing in the world, because I was so focused and driven on the goal. I need to hit this thing, and I'd set out a plan, and if it didn't work, then that would, yeah, bad. So that's why I actually went away from setting smart goals, because I felt like I had to follow the plan, and there was little flexibility, and then I didn't enjoy what I was doing. As soon as you take fun out of things, never a good sign. So for me, a lot of the goals that I was setting, and most of the goals that I set, actually worked negatively for me. But then for other people, like you said earlier, for other people, it's really, really useful. And when it comes to,
I really like what Sarah's put. I wanted to comment on that. Exactly. My system is a system that is set and forget. I know I'm working towards my goals because subconsciously I am goals driven, so I don't need to keep recording it. I can just set it and I forget it and I'll keep going. So yeah, essentially that is my system. And I think yours is the same, Danny, because you literally now have your tasks. Boop, done. Project done. And like for me, I'm beginning to see how my goals aren't necessarily a traditional goal, but more a project is a goal. There is an end goal in sight, but I don't really have a longer, bigger term goal. That a bigger term goal than normal.
Wait.
Thank you.
There you go.
A longer term goal, because I just like I will keep working towards my tiny little goals or projects, as it will, and each achievement will keep moving forward. So yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Just so I bring it up.
Well, I did study to be a hypnotist, so I'm going to hypnotize him to make him like peanut butter eventually. That's why he's bringing it up. But yeah, I completely agree with Sarah. But I think it's knowing what your goals are, what types of goals work for you, and then using them, and not. Sorry, that was really loud. And not being afraid to not do a certain type of goal.
Snot.
Just because. Stop it. Come on.
Snot. We're being serious here.
Yeah, we were. You just like snot. Look at me, I'm funny.
Squidward's in the house.
It's about finding the types of goals that work for you, and if they don't work, don't just have it for the sake of having it, which leads on to systems, in particularly Notion, and actually in particularly most other platforms, is the fact that people just use other people's systems because they think it will make them successful, because you're just copying someone else's system, or you're just copying someone else's goal structure, or you're following the Pareto principle because everybody tells you to follow the Pareto principle. Just because someone tells you to do something, you shouldn't automatically think, yeah, no, that's a good idea. I'm just going to use that because they are successful, which means if I use the same process, I will definitely 100% all of the time be successful.
So question for you then. Essentially, the system is built on the individual's philosophy. So how do you teach someone or help someone or coach someone or consult with someone about a system if they don't understand their own philosophy?
Then there needs to be an exploration of their philosophy first. And that involves a lot of inward thinking. I mean, I like psychology.
Yeah, how?
Coaching, mentoring, psychology.
So if someone was to ask you, okay, I want to have Notion as a second brain.
Why?
But what if they've just asked you for it? Would
Why?
you? Yeah, but
No.
would you not build it? You would ask them,
I'd ask why.
and what they're going to use it for. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? What is the purpose of using it? What do you want to achieve? Will this like when someone consults with me, the first thing I ask and the first thing we do is find out their goals and reason why. Because so help me, I'm so tired of people saying, "Oh, can you remake shit? Can you show me how to do August Bradley's system, please? Can you consult on August Bradley's system?" My reaction to that will always and forever be no,
Ask
because
him.
if it well, yeah, that, but not just that, but also, why do you want to use August Bradley's system? Is it working for you? Why do you want to use my system? Does my system work? Do you know? How will you know whether my system works for you? And it's about finding those questions. So there's a lot deeper when it comes to actually, especially in Notion. This is more a Notion specific thing, I think you'll find, because with things like ClickUp and other apps, you use their process and their system, and that's it. And so when you're first getting started, it's great to use tools like Asana, I guess, and Trello, I guess, and ClickUp, you know?
I guess.
No, ClickUp is a good one because it really is. It is freer than both Trello and Asana. But
Could we put Coda on that list? I don't know. I don't know because of the pricing structure.
yeah,
You're restricted in
I
databases.
didn't dive too much into Coda when they first did their most recent releases, so I can't. When I explored Coda, it was a doc thing. Sarah's made a good point. Although I do,
Yeah, I think we both just read the same
yeah, I
thing.
know. Although I do, that's why I knew that you were about to put it up. I love it. Although I do think there is value in just diving in and trying various methods to get an idea of what does and doesn't work for you. Completely agree. I completely agree with that. But then you're diving into the problem of just literally switching and testing and then you end up just using everybody else's systems. And then you can very easily get into this trap of moving between. I mean, thinking about it, my system is a hybrid of Danny's, my own, little bit of Marie.
It's interesting. So for me, obviously, I've explored lots of other applications. And for me, if I didn't have a solid system, I would not have the ability to go to different applications to test out and see how things work. So I've explored Roam. I've explored Evernote, but that's not really a system. That's just an application for one thing. You use Evernote for note taking. That's it. You can't use it for anything else. So I've explored other applications like that. I've explored Taskade. But if I didn't have a system that worked for me and I knew the system, I would not have been able to explore those applications. Exploring ClickUp, there was so much in ClickUp because it's essentially ClickUp is a Notion workspace. It's essentially a Notion template workspace of someone that's used like a power Notion user, but ClickUp give it to you straight away and goes, there you go, here's the stuff. And to start with, you think there is loads of stuff to go on, and there is a lot of stuff you can do, but there are still boxed restrictions. So knowing your system helps you explore other applications, but essentially you're just mimicking the system you've got elsewhere. Whereas if you go straight into an app and don't have a system, you then have to build your system whilst becoming familiar with the app, which is where I think some of the boxed apps can help in some senses, but also hinder in other senses because you get stuck, you get lost.
I think boxed apps are good when you don't know. When you're first getting started and you don't know. I feel that's where box apps help when you don't know what you want. I think that's probably, having someone help you explore your own philosophy. How much of that should be a consultant? It depends on how much you enjoy it. That's not a question you can answer. I know, sucky answer to a question, but you can't. A consultant's job is whatever the consultant wants to do. I absolutely love brainstorming with my clients as a consultant. That's my job because I enjoy it. It depends on what you want to do as the consultant. I feel that you manage as much of it as you want to.
For me, the biggest word in there is philosophy, because a philosophy is not set in stone. It's constantly changing. So if as a consultant, you're going to work with someone for a limited amount of time, you can't work with their philosophy because it will change. It will evolve. So you have to work with what you've got in that time, at that space. So I think if you are going to work with someone and work with their philosophy, it's going to have to be a medium to long scale time frame, time span, whether that is more like a membership or coaching program rather than a consultant thing.
Or you leave flexibility in there.
But still, if you're leaving flexibility in a system, are you really building a system, or are you just building a boxed app that leaves it open?
No, you're building a framework that can mold around their philosophy. Everybody has a fundamental philosophy that they don't need to really think about. It's just drawing it out of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so once you have your fundamental philosophy, even if things slightly change, your fundamentals will always stay the same. They will just adapt and flex.
Yeah, true. I was just reading this from a Nerdy Notion here. I will exploring other methods to learn the process, but may or may not adapt certain aspects of it. So I think this is specific, for me anyway, this is specific to the nuances of your system rather than the system as an overall thing.
And also, Tia is much like we enjoy this stuff.
Yeah.
We get excited by things like I think everybody in this, judging by the amazing conversations we've had so far, everybody likes this shit. But most people don't. And they just want to be able to get stuff done and enjoy the rest of their life.
Look at the name of the channel, Notion Nerds.
Yeah, I know, I know, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. We had Teresa on, and she breaks every single rule. Like 80-20 principle, having goals and deadlines. She ain't got no deadlines.
Dates on tasks.
Dates on tasks. They're just there. They're just there. But it works because it is her system, because she isn't tied down by all that theoretical crap that we nerd the hell out on.
This is an interesting point that Lizzie's made. Personal projects are connected to a goal. Oh, I don't want to do that. Personal projects connected to a goal. How many personal projects can you have connected to one goal?
And aren't those personal projects goals in themselves?
Exactly. And if they are, then how do you differentiate between a project and a goal? Because essentially, kind of what we spoke about earlier, a measurable goal is very, very, very similar to a project.
And actually, a project needs to have an outcome, which you would see as, guess what? A goal.
An outcome goal, not process goal.
Well, yeah, so we're now just going goalception.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a point. What I guess as a question to any of the goal setters is a goal a project? Because this is something that I was thinking about in my Notion space. Is do I put goals in, and how would I go about doing it? Because I think the majority of the properties that I would add into goals would be already in my projects database. I want progress. I want essentially some sort of due date. It doesn't have to be fixed, but an idea of a due date as to when I want that goal done, if it's going to be an outcome goal. And then I'm going to have tasks essentially related to the goal. Those tasks may be in the form of projects because they may have more than just one action to it. But yeah, is there a difference between projects and goals? Process goals, I think, are more habits. Habits are results. Habits get you results. Uh,
Well, that's an
I'm
interesting thought, Sarah. Sorry, you've got on that one. Go on.
I think they think about
Interesting.
Notion has facilitated so many users. No philosophy, yeah. So when it comes to Notion in general, I think I'm going to say it. Notion isn't difficult to learn if you're willing to put the time in. If you're willing to put the time in, I don't think Notion is difficult to learn. And sorry?
No, it's not. Okay.
There's so many examples of that. I mean, Roxana is a perfect example. She came on a week after using Notion and came on like a month later, and you're like, okay, you've been using Notion for how long now? Like, incredible. You can learn Notion, and there are so many resources out there to learn Notion if you put the time in. But the philosophy behind using it, that's where I guess value is the word I'm going to use. That's where the value comes. With coaches, consultants, trainers, but you don't have to know Notion for that. I do think we have to make sure that there's not all theory at first. If a person who has never implemented a system, they may not even know their philosophy until they just try something. Yeah.
I disagree.
Really?
I think you got excited there, didn't you?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we disagree.
Yeah. I think they need to act.
By philosophy. Like, how do we define philosophy?
Define philosophy? You can't. Philosophy is just wishy-washy.
I think everyone has. I strongly believe that everyone has this philosophy. They just don't know it. It's in their subconscious. They have a subconscious philosophy that they do not realize they have. And my job, and yours, Danny, obviously, if you choose it, is to bring that philosophy to the surface. And that does involve trying something.
That's where I was going with it. That's what I was thinking.
It can involve trying something, I suppose. Yeah.
The way I look at it in my mind is that a philosophy, if they don't know about it, is unconscious. How do you make something unconscious conscious? They have to experience something where they can reflect on it and ask the question.
Okay, fair enough. I see what you,
It can be really, really quick. It can be a really small action, and then you can ask a question on that action, which makes them think about the philosophy, and then you start the conversation. I guess it's kind of a chicken and the egg.
Yeah, it is a chicken egg situation. It is very much. Yeah, which one? But
I think the philosophy is always there, but to get people to acknowledge their philosophy requires some sort of action, even if it is actively thinking about their philosophy. They've still got to try something.
Yeah, but the problem is that how much do you try before it just becomes doing more and more of it?
How much do you try? I think that depends on your, I was going to say goal, but it's not goal. Is your, I guess that's what the outcome that you want to get working with the individual. Because some people will take much longer to learn something or to grab something or to get hold of a concept than someone else. You can take that with all aspects of learning. Some people can look at Notion and go, oh, this is how you make a database. This is how relational roll-ups work. This is formulas done in a couple of hours. Other people can go, I don't understand this relation thing, and sit there for months on end just not getting it. And I think that's the same with philosophy. You can have philosophy stare you in the face, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it really doesn't matter.
No, I think you're right. I retract my previous statement. I agree.
Yes, Sarah, we won. Is there anything that stuck out to you, or am I just going to go down the list?
Yes, there was. I just can't remember which one it was. Yeah, projects being done in a quarter. Next one. A project should be done within a quarter. A goal could be over years. I don't think I agree with that one. I'm really cautious now saying I don't agree with something just in case I get persuaded otherwise.
But that's the point of this conversation.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because I think a project just needs to have an end. However long that end might be, as long as it has an end, I don't care when the deadline is or when it ends. Yeah, yeah, I don't.
So it's
That's
interesting because
frustrating.
if a project is over a quarter, then I am doing, this is really quick math in my head, 370 minimum projects in a quarter.
Yeah,
Because every piece of
depending on the
content.
size of your, it does depend on the size of your project and how you define what. Sarah, I'm intrigued from you in particular.
Mm.
What do you define as a project? Because the definition of a project, which also leads back to the system thinking of like your philosophy of your system, what is a project for you? For something that has to be done within a quarter, that's not a project to me, because I have projects that are more that you can
Unless
still
it's a
end.
massive project. Like if you're talking like building, I don't know, you can't build a house in a quarter, but something significant.
No, within a quarter. She said within a quarter.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a project, it has to be something significant in that. And I would imagine the tasks would have to take a few days at least, which means you're going to have numerous subtasks, which I would imagine the subtasks would have tasks.
I suppose thinking about, I guess a goal could be over years. Keep
Yeah.
talking, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking. So when it comes to a goal, I guess potentially a goal for my YouTube channel would be a subscriber count or a viewing count or an income number or something like that. But that goal can't have direct measurable projects to it because there is subjectivity in who watches the videos. Because I could make 100 videos as projects, but I won't hit the goal because maybe no one wants to watch them. So that goal would be uncontrollable for me, but the projects would be controllable, unless the goal is, I guess it comes back to the measurable metric. Yeah, so I really don't know how you would put. I really can't think of a project that would take a quarter, the way that I define it anyway. What about you?
Yeah, my projects are always small. I try to keep my projects small.
Goals are larger than projects. Part of the process of reaching the goal. I understand that, and I get that projects get to goals, but I don't quite get what a goal is. If a goal is just a number of projects, then it's just a project. I would see that as a project. If I want to hit 100 videos, then the
That's a
project.
project to hit 100 videos with 100 sub projects linking to.
Yeah, so the project would be complete 100 videos. Then the tasks would be the videos, and then the subtasks would be the things I need to do to get those
But
things
that
done, I
wouldn't,
guess.
though, would it? It wouldn't be a project unless you put a date on it.
Well, yeah, I want to get 100 videos done this year.
Yeah.
That's an outcome goal. I think an outcome goal is the same as a project.
Yes. Yeah.
And a process goal is a subjective assessment of what you would like to do, which is more of a destination or a direction.
Let's bring Sarah's thing. We'll come back to everybody else, but this really does lead on to what we were saying. Projects are very action based, so shouldn't be drawn out too long. A group of related tasks and a measurable outcome. There isn't a right or wrong answer. We are now just having a philosophical discussion about
Semantics.
Notion systems philosophy. We're having a philosophical we're having a philosophical discussion about philosophy.
That's interesting. Goal 10,000 subs.
I don't agree with that. That's not that. You can't control that. That is uncontrollable. I do not see that as a goal.
There are actions you can take that could impact that, but you can't directly affect it. I mean, take Dad How Do I as a YouTube channel, for example. Dad How Do I put up 5 videos on YouTube and got over 1 million subscribers because he resonated with the community and it was shared all over the place and his growth exploded. So he made 5 videos and got over to 1 million subs. Then you have Mr. Beast, for example, who made over 130 videos to get like 100 subscribers and now is one of the biggest growing channels, makes a video and it gets like 40 million views per video. But at the start of his channel, it was really, really slow. So the videos don't directly impact subscribers.
Yeah, I feel those are the types of goals that I am. I like Lizzie's goal is. I think goals. Oh, like I prefer. It sounds weird, but fuzzier goals are good for me. I prefer a fuzzier goal, something that I can actually. How to explain it? You need to stall again.
Well, I think what you're saying as a fuzzy goal, I would, looking at terminology, an outcome goal is something that's measurable and a metric. And I think that's very, very, very close to a project. A process goal, which is a process to get to some direction, which, I mean, for what Lizzie said, become healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy is a process goal. It's focusing on the process and getting more of something.
Yeah, there's no end game. It's infinite game. It's like it's something that doesn't end. That's something I really like. I think you've got a finite goal and an infinite goal, something that never ends, that you can keep striving towards. Yeah, I don't think you can win a goal, and if you can achieve a goal, it's a project.
Yeah.
If you can achieve a goal, it's a project towards getting 10,000 subscribers. You don't have control over that, but it is a project. You are working towards that. There will be multiple projects. Fuzzy goal equals an aspiration for me.
I've just scrolled upwards a little bit to see what was going on, and I saw this.
My age will rarely bother, but I'm surprised many young people don't find it interesting at all. YouTube is getting saturated by students showing. That's another bit. Danny.
Yeah, I'm getting
it. But me experience here in Sweden, I think that's depending on where you are in the world. I think we all have. I think Notion has a particular attracts a particular kind of person. I don't ever think Notion could go mainstream, not properly. Because I still feel that Notion is very much specific to people who know what they want to achieve and know their philosophy, or want to explore their philosophy is another thing. If you want to explore it, you don't have to know what it is, but exploration is useful. I don't think it will ever go mainstream. For people who are just like, yeah, okay, I don't like my life's great, I'll just keep going. A fuzzy goal.
That's what you said. This is what Gail put just before Sarah's comment. The goals have to be controllable. It's a good question.
That is a good question, Danny. What are your thoughts on that one?
I was going to let you go first.
I know I'm letting you go first this time because I need to think.
Do goals have to be controllable? For me, yes. And yeah,
it depends on what type of goal it is. If it's an infinite goal that doesn't end,
you still have to be in control of it because you're in control of your actions.
You do, don't you? Yeah, because if you can't control it, then there's no way of.
Then it's just up to fate. I don't believe in fate, but if you don't have control of it, what's the point of setting it?
Yeah, 100%.
That's just my question. If you can't control it, what's the point of setting it? Look, if a goal, this is just coming out of the top of my head. If my goal is to get someone that's never heard of me to talk about me to someone that I don't know, and I don't know who they are, I can't set that as a goal because I don't know who the person is. I don't know how to contact the person. There is nothing that I can action for that to do. It's the same as like the unconscious thinking. If you don't know what you're trying to learn, you can't learn it. Right. Sarah's commenting about fuzzy goal. I saw the first bit. Fuzzy goal is an aspiration. Yeah.
Aren't all goals aspirations? I aspire to reach. I aspire to reach 1,000 subscribers. I aspire to create 100 videos.
A successful business.
I aspire to have a successful business. A goal is something that is an aspiration. I see them as the same thing. Personally, that's my opinion. I aspire to fly to Canada one day, and travel to Canada with my family. I aspire to grow my YouTube channel. I aspire to build my business. Aspire and goal to me are the same thing. This is fun. This is a great discussion.
Yeah, not something we were expecting, but yeah, I'm loving it. It's
Ooh, Sarah's comment. Danny, you're going to take over on this one.
I'm on Sarah's side. Fuzzy goals. Okay. I was just making sure there's nothing else I missed. As a former pro athlete, I can tell you goals were a key part of my career, and they definitely weren't projects. Goals can be reached through habits or projects. True. But when working with the pro athletes that I've worked with in trampoline, handball, and football, all of them had goals, but those goals were measurable, and those measurable goals had tasks that we did and projects that they hit. So I worked in strength and conditioning, so my field was very much gym based. So we periodized the training to hit the project, i.e. the target goal. So the goal of the athletes were typically the goals that they set were position based or time based. In trampoline, it was based on their positioning, which they can't control. But the project was to hit a certain score in competition. So the goal was very, very fuzzy, because it was I want to win, or I want to come. I think it was top 3 to get into nationals, or what was it? I think it was top 2 to get into the Olympic selection, and that was their goal. But they couldn't control everything in that because they couldn't control the judges' scores because it's subjective, and they couldn't control how other people performed. But they could control the score that they got to an extent. So the time of flight score was one that we focused on in trampoline. In athletics, it was the speed that they took off in certain places. So we set tasks that were actionable. Do this in the gym, do that in the gym, periodize the training to get an outcome that would lead to the project to be completed. The project due date being the competition or the match or the wherever. And that goal of getting into nationals, getting into the Olympic, winning this game, winning that tournament, the goal didn't really have an end date other than ideally within the next 10 years as an athlete.
So I think this is my issue with traditional goal setting. It is very much a competition. It is very much winning. And for me, and for a lot of people, I feel that takes a lot of the fun out of growing. If I'm always just trying to win, I don't necessarily class myself as a pro. Although I am darn good at what I do, I
would see be an Olympian as a goal. This is me looking at that. I would say be an Olympian. That's the goal. That's the target. But, I mean, goal aspiration, I guess.
That'd be the infinite game that you'll play.
Yeah, that's interchangeable, I think. And then goal is that looks like a time for the 200 something.
That's a project.
Yeah, to me.
Same. You want to reach, that's the outcome of the project, being able to can you put it back up again, please?
Sorry.
To be able to reach 54.5 in the 200. That is a project. That is the outcome of the project. That's how I would view that myself. And the goal, which would be the infinite goal, would be to... Well, no, that's a finite goal, because once you're an Olympian, you're an Olympian. Am I correct? Remember, not look at me. Do I look a very sporty person? once you become an Olympian, aren't you an Olympian? That's the
Yeah.
end, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't go beyond that. So that's a finite goal or a finite aspiration. That's something you'll reach, and then you'll never go no further than that.
Yeah.
And that, for me,
and
I
then you
find
have to set another one.
yeah, and then it's just that thing of having to set another one. Well, once you reach that goal, what's next? So once you, let's say you do get 154.5 in the 200. What next? You become an Olympian. Okay, now what?
Beat my time.
That's
Get more
nice.
medals. Become
Right?
Phelps. Be
Why?
better than Phelps. Yeah.
Why? And you've got to always. It means once you've reached something, you've always got to try and find a reason to do more, and you'll hit a wall. You'll eventually go, I don't know why.
I think that's when a lot of athletes burn out. Out from sport.
And it goes to burnout. Like for me, my goal is never to burn out. I'm still burning out. I still do burn out, but I don't want to reach burnout. I want to keep playing. And so to do that, my goals need to not end. My big goal, the reason why I do what I do, my overarching philosophy cannot be a set goal that has an end, that has a fixed thing. It can't be a project in my eyes. It has to, yeah. Oh, this is fun. I love this discussion.
Yeah, I
wish we could just bring everybody on right now. Like seriously, this is great.
Just a group call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw this in the chat and I was like, I need to bring this up. Those who appreciate the value of Notion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can follow an August Bradley video to see that it has value, even as much of it is beyond them at the moment, and definitely not mainstream. I think something that I've seen a lot when speaking, not directly about August's stuff, but just with Notion people in general, is they see systems like August's, like Marie's, not necessarily like mine. I don't know why, for whatever reason, but they look big. I mean, Jonathan, I spoke to Jonathan just before stream. I actually broke up my system, and it's quite small. It's quite small when you look at just the databases and the templates. But what I do with it is quite vast. But when you look at some of those systems, there's loads of stuff in there, but there's loads of stuff behind it as to why it works the way it works. Yeah, that was just a thought that I saw. I was like, yeah, because you can see the system, but you see it through a different lens. You can look at the databases instead of going, wow, there's loads of databases and loads of numbers here. You can look at it and go, well, why have you got those properties showing and not those ones? Why are you showing it in this order? Why have you hidden that in that toggle, and why don't you just show it? Or why do you do it that way, or why don't you do it that way? That sort of thing. Rather than going,
it's
wow,
like that. It's like that. I want Notion to have a more powerful search. Why? If your system is built correctly, build your system to not have correctly is not the right term, but like create something that means you don't need to use search. Why do you need to use search? That is a friction point that you can solve with your system.
It comes to building a system for.
I'd really like Lizzie's comment.
I was just going to go with Claudia's first, because otherwise I'm like going to skip over it. That's fine. I was like, I'm scrolled up on the chat and I want to get back down to the bottom. Goal to build a YouTube community. Outcome to have 1,000 subscribers by X day. Project the specific videos that help you achieve that outcome. Interesting. I think there are lots of different things in there that not necessarily pick apart, but YouTube community, how big is a community? Talking to 50 people in person is massive. Like essentially that's teaching a class. Like that's a teacher. That's a big class, 50 people. But 50 people on YouTube, you may think, that's nothing. If you stood up in front of 50 people and spoke, are you talking to a community of people?
Are we a community right now? The people that are live on stream, how many are on stream? I can't see.
We've got 8 watching at the moment, plus us two.
Are we a community right now? Because there are 10 of us. That's something you have to have. There needs to be a bit more to that, like to build a YouTube community, to have 1,000 and also that's like, does 1,000 subscribers mean you're going to have a community? I see humongous YouTube channels with hundreds of that, like millions, and they do not have a community. And so you need to look what is correlation and what is causation. Like, what? How do you know? What evidence do you have that you need to have that to make that? Because yeah.
I mean, just with the 1,000 subscribers thing, when if you do get into YouTube and start building up YouTube channels and things like that, you will start using tools like TubeBuddy or Morning Fame or vidIQ or something like that. And you can see that there are some channels that have 60, 70,000 subscribers and their videos get 300, maybe 400 views. I have 4,000 subscribers on my channel, Danny Hatcher, and I will get 600-700 every time I publish a video without fail.
And also, we were discussing today about this channel, how many views we've had on this channel for some of these videos when you had it before, and we do not have many like subscribers on here, but people are watching it.
We've got more views than we have subscribers.
Yeah.
It's normally the other way around.
Yeah. And is that because we have a community? What's the reason for? And that's the question. So that one needs to be where we could just go mad with that.
Yeah, yeah. But I like the idea of having a goal and then a project. But I still think that goal would be a project, or it would either be a project in itself if you're going to add something to it, or it's going to be a process goal, which is a fuzzy goal. I think you called it
infinite. I like the infinite and finite and finite and infinite.
That's a Simon Sinek thing, isn't it?
I think it might be, actually, yeah. But I really like it. I genuinely think it's such a
I think that's a Simon Sinek thing.
I'm going to check just quickly. Where have I got it from?
Yeah. Your actions do influence your goal. 100%. 100%. I think if your actions didn't, well, I'll bring this up. If your actions didn't influence the goal, then there's no point setting the goal because you can't do anything about it.
No, I agree, but what is we are now playing such. Can you go up to as you said before? Because I think this is my concept. This is the point I'm trying to make when it comes to having a project or a goal or something that you want to reach and having a measurable, like, reach this by this time. There are things outside of your control that you will not have no control over, that you cannot affect. For example, COVID. For example, one of my children getting ill. If they get ill, I have to stop. That's a given. So this is why, for me, having, an infinite game that I'm playing where my goals just don't ever really end, I suppose. I don't ever reach the goal. I reach stages in my goal, I guess, if you want to call it that, but it is always going to keep moving forward. I think that's where my philosophy stands. I can control only what I can control.
To bring another word in, I think milestones is applicable there.
Yeah, like having different milestones to reach towards your goal is great, but that goal should never end. And I don't know, I published that. I need to make a video on this. Officially now, I'm saying this right now that I'm making a video on this.
Accountability.
Yeah, accountability. Yeah. If by next week I haven't recorded it.
Oh no. There we go, folks. Accountability.
Why are you pointing at Lizzie's message?
Because that is the accountability for you. Lizzie is making you accountable. Okay.
No pressure on you, Lizzie.
No, it's just the comment. You know what I mean. Shut up. Let's carry on down. A nerdy notion here. Let's bring this one up. My goal is to get to the big boss level in the game and surviving. Bowser beware. Okay. Yes. Yep. I saw Big Boss. I was like, I'm bringing that up, and then yeah. Okay. Educate, inform, and inspire others to do the same. They're thinking outside the box. Yeah.
But that's something you can't control.
Yeah, that's a very fuzzy goal, as you would say. Oh, sorry. Which one would you go with?
infinite. If it doesn't end, it's infinite. If it ends, it's finite. It's annoying because
that could end though. Others to do others. That could be 2 or 3 others, and when they've got 2 or 3 others, but then that's turning it into an outcome goal rather than a process goal, which we could argue is a project.
Yeah, but
which we've done.
Yeah.
This
is brilliant. I'm loving it though. It's fascinating to really knuckle down into this.
Yeah. This is the sort of the system thinking, process thinking, or whatever. For those of no, I won't. But like these are the sort of conversations that I would love to have with other creators. I was going to mention, but yeah, I am going to. So the current plan on my channel, because obviously we're talking about Notion on this channel, and the processes in Notion, and when we can explore Notion further with other people as well, we can obviously dive into how we apply these things in there. But I personally want to see these sort of processes behind other creators, other YouTubers, Instagram, photos, videos, just any sort of creator. Because I would imagine we're all very, very different. And just talking with the people in this group, obviously a lot of us are productivity focused. But when you look at a lot like other creators, I know some other creators that are not as productivity focused as us. So it'd be interesting to see what apps they use, what apps they don't use, what apps they use, what apps they don't use, and how they choose to do things, because obviously everyone is very different. Great conversation. I'm loving it. So review. Systems help us complete tasks, then projects, then achieve goals or fulfill aspirations depending on your point of view. Which is more helpful, measurable, better for personal growth. Next week. We've actually got Dimitri coming on next week. Well, that's the plan anyway, to go through the Notion space. But yeah, I guess to an extent, the system helps us complete tasks, then projects, then achieve fuzzy infinite goals. Fuzzy infinite goals.
I don't think finite and infinite with me is the fact that the English language is king annoying, because what you want to say is infinite and finite, but finite is not a word.
Infinite.
And infinite is an awful way of saying it. That's why my brain keeps going.
Yeah. That's why I chose not to. That's why I chose not to follow it with Simon Sinek's work. Well, I like the concept of it. It's growth and fixed mindset, essentially, just applied to a goal. I don't think I've ever used the search. Never needed it.
I very rarely use the search, and normally it's just because I can't bother to look through my system.
Most of the time when I use the search, it's to show how it works. I don't use it in my space. It's just showing how it works, because everything is linked so quickly. It's 1 or 2 clicks away. But that's how I built my system in Notion anyway. You should. Is this what you've seen?
No, I saw the one below. Yeah, I just saw that, and I'm actually looking this person up, and I hope it doesn't play the video. Don't have it. Oh, you do. No, shush. There we go.
How many databases?
Click up. Layla from Process Driven is
that yellow? Has she got like a yellow stuff?
Yes.
Yes, I am familiar with her work.
Well, okay. How many databases is too many if we're talking about talking systems?
We just did a podcast on this.
We did. That's literally live right now.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that.
Right. Ta-da!
Bananas. Why did you keep the bananas in there? Seriously?
We are bananas. Professional Notion nerds, I think. Whatever. But yeah, how many databases? Too many databases. We did like an hour-long podcast on that. So
just to summarize, because it does follow on to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As many as you need, and no more.
Yep.
Do not just add a database. First of all, see if you can put if you need to have too many databases, your system is not ready yet.
Systematized.
It's not systematized. You only need as many as you need, and no more or less.
+1 to bring later on. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll reach out. So I've already spoken to Evie, and I'm going to be on Evie's stream in January at some time. Evie's another ClickUp consultant. But yeah, I can reach out to her later. I've spoken to her a couple of times in the comments of YouTube videos. So yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a good conversation. Not only just a Notion versus ClickUp thing, because there's definitely going to be some friction there, but also process thinking as well. What are you looking at?
I was just looking at the comments.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a conversation. I will write that down and make sure I contact her. That'll be a good conversation, good fun. Be interesting to see what specific topics will you want to talk about, because I would imagine we could have the exact same conversation with her in it. Or is there specific things you would want to go through? Because obviously, John and I both use Notion. Oh, we could do like a panel, both of us, and then Layla and Evie.
That'd be cool.
Because then you'd have 2 ClickUp consultants and 2 Notion consultants. A lot of the processes and philosophies are going to be similar between us, but how we go about doing it and our own systems is going to be different.
Ooh, that'd be fascinating. I like that.
Because both of us have slight differences with inside Notion, but then I would imagine both of them have slight differences inside of ClickUp. So you could get 4 different perspectives on essentially the same thing. So is there a specific question or topic? Maybe that's something we'll have to expand on a bit, maybe after stream as well. Talk about that. What are you looking at, Gail? How many systems is...
No, that one's a good question to answer, but I was laughing at Homesick Max comment underneath. If we watch my databases and I think my numbers as much as necessary, you think it's too many? No, because it's your system.
So if I said to you, I have 34 databases.
Do they all have a purpose?
Yes.
Could they be simplified?
Yes.
Then they should be simplified.
Why?
Because if you have too many things moving,
like,
you should have only as many as you need. If you can combine databases, they should be combined.
But
End
why?
of. Because the idea of a system is to work on its own. A system is designed to just go through on its own. And the more moving parts you have in a system, the more possibilities for error. If you can simplify your system and reduce decision fatigue, because how would you decide what goes in database 8 versus database 32? If it can be simplified, then simplify it. If it cannot, then yeah, that's fine.
How do you decide that it cannot? Because then we go into the question of Notion as one database.
Notion is not one database.
No, but you could put Notion in one database. You could do it. And I've seen it done.
What?
Yeah. Have your tasks, your projects, your goals all in one database. And because you can relate the database to itself multiple times, have multiple roll-ups, multiple formulas. You could do it.
Yeah, you can, but whether you should is another matter.
That's what I'm saying.
But even then, there's still more databases. You've added a database to store your databases. What's the point of having a database?
I haven't added a database to store databases.
No, you haven't, but those people have.
Oh.
If you have a one database thing where you have all your databases within databases, you still have multiple databases. Have I overused the word database yet?
I was just thinking, I think I actually have a database to store databases. But is it databases to store databases, or is it a database to store pages which have databases in, which I guess is just Notion in general?
That's different. Those are pages which have databases.
But could I get rid of my dashboard database and just have the databases stored on a page as a master page rather than databases? because the dashboards are pages.
However, there is a point to you having a dashboard database for the review for the last time your task was seen. That makes sense. You have a purpose. It needs to be there because you have a reason to use it. It must have a purpose. Just having 38 databases for the sake of having 38 databases in a case of just being a knob to try and put off your co-host is just annoying. Danny.
Yeah. What Home 6 said.
Yeah.
Now that'll buy number of moving parts. Yeah. And that's exactly it. If I recognize that there are things, so for those that don't know about my system, I have 5 databases, I think, in total. And that does everything in life. 5, maybe 6, I can't remember. But if there are moving parts that I can put into one database, so if there is essentially metadata that is the same, it goes in one database. Oh, I've got something in my eye and not my finger.
Your eyeball.
Huh?
Your eyeball.
Yeah. That's my good eye as well.
Finger.
Yeah, my bad eye's been playing up as well, which is not fun. Time to go to sleep now. Yeah, I was literally just about to say we've hit the 2-hour mark, and that is a goal, or is it a project? Sorry.
You've got me thinking about it now. Good question. Is it? What do you all think?
That's such a get out. You're like, I don't know. I'm going to ask the audience. Right. So, have you just read a Nerdy Notioners thingy, or I was gonna call it there, unless you've got something else you want to say. I have main databases stored in the main page, each one simplified. Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna nod.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I agree. But that's for strangers to look at. If you don't have people looking at it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Danny, you've recently done something that I'm actually going to do too, where you do have now, I suppose, a databases dashboard. It's not called a database dashboard, is it? It's called something else.
It's a page. It's a page in a database.
Yeah, it's a page in the database, and you just added in each of your databases and then all of the properties underneath. Templates underneath. That doesn't need to be there. But in terms of referencing, in terms of if you are a creator, that has a solid purpose. So it makes sense. Everything needs to have a reason to have it. And if you can simplify it, simplify it. If simplifying it doesn't make sense, then don't simplify it. Only what you need, nothing more, nothing less.
Mic drop. So you can do it on a boom arm. My boom arm's broken. But yeah, so what we will do is we will leave it on that one. If any of you do want to come on stream at some point, then there is not a link in the description, I don't think, but I will put the link in the description. I can't remember if I put it there or not, but just let us know on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're watching from. Or just
don't let me know. That's bloody useless. Let Danny know, because Danny's the one who's in charge of it.
Set up your own link then.
No, because you're the one managing it, and you're the one that gives me the link 2 minutes before it's supposed to be there.
2 minutes before you're meant to be an hour and a half early to being there. Right, okay.
Shush.
See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.